On today's show, we handicap what is likely the best domain auction in history. The NamesCon Auction, coming up next week, is handicapped by Monte Cahn, the curator of the auction itself, and Drew Rosener. This is a fabulous show. Learn about investing. If your budget is $5K, $10K, $25K, or more, we talk about what are the best domains for you to keep an eye on. This auction has so many end users interested. Truly, these are domains buy now or they will be off the market forever. Enjoy the show. First, serious about online trading? Secure your funds, keep your merchandise safe, and use a company that keeps the buyer and seller protected the whole way through. That's escrow.com. Payments you can trust. Hey, Sherpa Network, thanks for joining us today. Special show where we are handicapping the domains going to auction at NamesCon next week. And even better, we have the auctioneer himself, renowned domain name investor entrepreneur, Monte Cahn. Thank you, Monte, for joining us.
Thanks, Tess. Great to be here, as usual.
Of course. Yeah, and Drew.
Always great to see you.
Always good to see you too, Andrew. Welcome back to the domain world.
I don't know where he's been. Monte, I know you really don't need an introduction, but we do frequently have new domain investors watching, and as well as folks in the startup industry who are trying to learn about domain name investing. So just real quick, Monte is one of the pillars of the domain industry, one of the very earliest pioneers, started domain investing in 1995. Monte started the first online domain brokerage business in the industry. Of course, he is a member of the Domain Hall of Fame. And lesser known tidbit, you have degrees in marketing and business administration, which makes sense for domaining, but also in biology. Have you ever used your biology degree at all?
Yeah, I actually went to college to get into the medical industry, so that's what I did. So for 15 years, I was selling capital equipment systems to hospitals, and I took a special program at the University of Kentucky, go Cats go, for that program, and that's what I did for my first 15 years of life, and started dabbling in the domain business in 1995 while I was still doing the medical business. So I did both at the same time for close to 5 years. And then finally let the medical business go when I sold WallStreet.com and a handful of other seven-figure names in the late 90s.
Wow.
WallStreet.com that we are now trying to resell.
Yeah. So I originally sold it for $1.03 million or $1.02 million. It was the first $1 million sale in the industry. And then,
Is that right?
Yeah. It was the first $1 million sale in the industry.
What year was that?
That was 1999.
Domain history. Monte.
And then we sold autos.com for $2.2 million the same year at the end of the year. So that was the first $2 million sale. So anyway, that's
keep it going. Monte, we want to do a Jeopardy show on DomainSherpa. I think either you're definitely going to be the subject of a couple questions, but I wonder, would you join us?
Of course.
I think you'd make a good contestant, don't you, Drew?
I'd be happy to.
Absolutely.
That'd be
great.
cool.
25 years of experience, do something.
Hey, don't intimidate the competition. I'm trying to get other people to say yes. You might scare them off.
What do I win? A trip to Portugal and into the new mansion that Andrew has waiting for me? A little apartment? I may not leave if I come over there.
You don't say that before you've booked it.
Well, I think I'm booking.
So, Monte, you have been the auctioneer for the NamesCon conference. It is such a cool auction. I love how Drew sits in the front row, and I see him more serious than ever.
I like having him there too.
Tell me why. So let's look at it. So anyone can look right now at what what will be for auction, although this list gets culled a little bit more. Let's walk through it. So go to namejet.com to our audience, right? And then the first thing in the menu bar, NamesCon Auction. And then just like everything else on NameJet, you can sort it. So we were talking, even though we're going to handicap not just the most valuable domains today, but may as well start out, let's sort by the high bid. Now tell me for a minute about this list in general, not just by high bid, but I'm just walking our audience through. Tell me about this list. You said it's the best list you've ever had.
Yeah, I say that every year, but this year, you know, I can honestly say it. If you look at the list, 95% of the names on the entire list are keywords, dictionary terms, 3letter.com, two-letter.com, number names. I mean, right in the heart of the industry of what investors and end users would be looking for. And I've had more submissions this year than I've had since 2006 or 7. I mean, there's over 100,000 domains submitted in this auction. What? And I had to weed through it myself. Basically, that's what I do every year on these lists, and select what I feel is through a lot of data and a lot of other metrics that we have, but sort through it and then put up a list for pre-bidding on NameJet. The purpose of this pre-bidding list, this list that you see here, is to open up pre-bidding and have people show their interest in these names before I go and select the 110 to 120 names that will appear in the live auction. So as I go through this list over the next week or two, there's going to be names that are going to start getting more bids. We just uploaded a new list, I think last night. So there's additional new names on here that haven't received bids yet because they just got put up. But anybody that put former back order reservations on these names then will show bids. Anybody that's then actively involved in pre-bidding will show these bids. And then those high bids will carry over to the live auction from the names that I select here. And then some names will be removed if they've gotten no interest. And then some names will remain in the extended auction, which runs from the live auction time period all the way through February 13th after we leave NamesCon. And the reason why I kept that door open till the 13th is I'm respecting the Chinese New Year and our Chinese buyers and bidders so that they have time to mull and cull through the list as well.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. So Chinese New Year is what? February 5th, right?
Yeah, February 5th, and it ends it's supposed to end 3 or 4 days after that, I think. But 13th gives us plenty of time for them to come back on and start doing what they do.
Up and running.
Yeah. So they like the numbers and the 3 letters, obviously, that we all know, and as well as some of the end users. Also, another good stat to know is that 53 or 54% of the names in the live and extended auction do go to end users. So we're doing end user outreach. We have the support from GoDaddy this year doing end user outreach because they have names in the auction from their owned and operated inventory. I have the support from web.com and Network Solutions end user clients because web bought NameJet. So they've agreed to help participate in this. So thank you, web.com as well as the NameJet customer base, and now SnapNames, which I used to be the president of, is also involved because web owns SnapNames. So now we have a huge network of end users, like over 150,000, users that are opted in to receive information about this auction, which is the most I've ever had.
So this is really maybe it would be fair to say the biggest auction the domain industry has ever seen.
Well, I hope it's that way for sales. I mean, in years past at Traffic, we had auctions that hit $8 and $10 and $13 million in sales back in the heyday. But the last couple of NamesCon auctions, which are very focused, we've always hit 7 figures. And last year was a great year. We sold Great.com for $900,000 and Super.com for $1.2 million to end users and a bunch of other names. So we had a really good and great year last year as well. So I expect it to be better than last year.
Okay.
Last year must have been around 3 million, 3 plus. No?
Yeah, and of course that helps the whole entire industry when you have those kind of sales. It shows that that domains are still gaining value. Even a lot of the new TLDs did well. Even though this is heavily weighted in .com still, there's a lot of really good new TLDs that are really good keyword, linguistically flowing good terms that in the future will become very valuable in my opinion.
Okay. And the other thing that I'm hearing from this is that if someone listening to this show or following this auction, if you want to buy this domain, this is really the time to do it, because there are so many end users involved and there's so much attention to this auction. I love, Drew, your Twitter hashtag that you use all the time, off the market forever. So if you want to get
and we have names that are available for sale in this list that have never been for sale before. Brent Oxley has already made it public that he's basically put up his entire portfolio, and he was not really selling it. But it's all in this list mixed in. I've got names from Slavic. I got names from Greg Ricks. I've got names from Roy Messer. I mean, guys that have been holding onto their names since the mid and early 90s now have finally put their names up for sale. So it's a great opportunity for those that thought all the good names are gone. They're right here. They're not cheap. Not all of them are cheap, but they're here.
But they're valuable. And why is that then, that so many investors who've been holding so long are willing to let go now? Is that a reflection of something particular happening on the market today?
No, I mean, when you're in it for that long, like I've been in it for 25 years, I know that people are moving on to other things. They're starting to retire, like my former partner, Michael Birkins, and Rick Schwartz. They're ready to, relax. This is a lot of work. It's a full, as Drew knows, and Tess, it's the domain industry is a 24-hour-a-day business. And just going through this list since beginning of November, I'm exhausted, and cultivating and trying to get bidders to bid, and then sellers to have reasonable reserves, and to create bidding wars and interest and stuff. It's a lot of work. It's a constant touch, 24-hour-a-day business. As I'm trying to go to bed, then the Asian market opens up and starts sending me names and asking questions. And so, it's a lot of work. And I think that people are onto other things. Brent Oxley, of course, is into, his farm and, other things. He's moved on, he sold his business. And even though he does this on the side, it's not his main focus. And that's what's happening with a lot of the sellers, I think.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And it does make sense. Most people who got into the domain market long ago are, visionaries in a lot of ways, or risk takers, and more often than not are affiliated with multiple ventures and multiple. As I
am also, so I understand it. And they also think that they want to leave something for the next generation of users to play with and still increase the value. We all know that domain names are like land. And so once upon a time, all the beach property that you see around the United States was empty, and it's resold several times, maybe hundreds of times even. And so that's what's happening here.
Yeah. Drew?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's on point to what you said. I feel it myself. It's like, as nice as it sounds to say, I got this amazing portfolio of domain names. I'm going to leave it to my kids. The kids don't care. They might not care. They don't know what to do with the domains. And so, better to leave them other types of assets or cash than domain names, right? And so, I think, if you've been in this long enough, you've seen enough appreciation where it just starts to make sense.
Yeah. Good to know.
I'm not even, I wouldn't even be so fast as to say that, I think when you were talking about traffic and having 8, 9, 10, $11 million auctions, I think that was probably the heyday of the wholesale market. But I think that we're seeing end user sales now at prices that have never, ever been seen before.
Right.
And much more frequently.
It's only taken 25 years for end users, right? But that also tells you how the industry is maturing finally, and how corporate end users are now figuring it out that the domain name is key to their business. Yeah. We've been fighting the same battle, you and I, Drew, for years about getting them to understand that. And now I think that we're starting to see that. And then we're going to start seeing that with some of the new TLDs too.
Yeah. And those prices are also a reflection not only of the market maturing, but also of the, back to your hashtag, off the market forever. I mean, supply and demand, there are less and less domains. And it really, Monte, this is an amazing list. Now, one more question before we look at the list. You mentioned, so we're filming, it's Tuesday, January 15th, and this will air next Monday. I believe that's the 21st. So you mentioned last night you added new names. First of all, I don't want our viewers to be like, oh my gosh, and they think it was like the yesterday of.
Right. Well, there'll be more names added between now and then, but I'm trying to wean down the additions and start getting to the subtractions, and then seeing the big marketing campaigns start at the end of this week, and then all of next week by all those companies that I mentioned to you earlier. And so we're going to see a lot more activity on the site by the time the show airs.
Okay. So what's the cutoff when no new names are added?
Well, I never really cut it off because at the last minute I might get some kind of shining star or whatever. But I'm not gonna, I don't have time when I'm doing end user outreach to spend time weeding through names that really aren't good for this fit, but might be better for our brokerage or stuff like that.
So if anything new is added, it's going to be a shining star. And let me say, you already have some shining stars here.
Yeah.
So we reviewed a couple of the names last week on DomainSherpa. Names like, broker.com, bride.com, drone.com. But this list is just full of gems. Stop.com, nut.com. I really liked homedevelopment.com.
That's a new addition. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Selfpublisher.com. Shock.me. I like it.
There you go. Shock me.
Yeah.
Sounds like a dare.
Spaghettisauce.com. I mean, a lot of, ny.taxi, New York Taxi. Woo! That's a nice one.
So some really good linguistically flowing keyword domains that are with new extensions. That make a lot of sense,
Yeah.
I mean, what I see here is there's a lot of names in here that are a business in a box, right? I mean, it's leads.com, accident.com, broker.com. These are businesses in a box. You put the right business on top of that, and you're going to see hockey stick growth. You're going to see, user adoption. Let's talk about.
I mean, how about domainnames.com? I mean, the registry, NSI registry, put that up for sale. So somebody else could grab that name, even a competitor, believe it or not. So that's a pretty remarkable release of a registrar, letting a keyword name go that's core to their business and putting it for sale.
Yeah.
Have you had?
You need this one, Andrew. Sexeducation.com. I know that's all about you.
Have you had any conversations about domainnames.com with buyers? Have you
starting to, and I think there's a lot of registrars and people in the industry sitting back and not showing their cards yet, right? So, this pre-bidding period is one thing because people do say that they're interested, but there's a lot of people that sit back, obviously, and don't show their interest for strategic reasons or whatever. But so the answer is yes. There's a lot. It's not reflective of how much interest there really is based off of the number of bidders and the high bids yet. But as we get closer, it'll get more active.
Now, Monte, you don't have to be there to even, 6-7 figure purchase. You don't have to be at the live auction.
That is correct. So the NamesCon attendees obviously are in the room. We usually fill up the room between 500 and 600 people. It's a packed room. There's food and alcohol. We open up the bar. So it's a fun event anyway. And of course, Wayne Wheat, our championship auctioneer, is entertaining. He's now a motivational speaker. He's written a couple books. He's really a great guy. Worked with him for almost 15 years now, or 12 years or something. But if you're in the room, you get a paddle. If you're outside the room and you're bidding remotely, on the NameJet site will be explicit instructions on how you participate remotely, just like you would at a Christie's or Sotheby's or Barrett-Jackson's auction remotely. We can support your bids by phone, and there'll be instructions for that. But better yet, you just download the app, and you can bid online on your computer, and you can see the auction live on your computer, with the auctioneer calling out the bids, and you can just place your bid online through our external bidding system.
Okay, and I will just say it can't be that hard. Eric Bergman, who bought Great.com, interviewed him. He'd never bid on a domain before, and he was like deep sea diving in the North Sea or something.
Iceland,
yep.
Yeah, and in between, he figured out how to do it. So.
So I worked with him when he was interested, and he's like, "Look, I'm in Antarctica or somewhere in the North Pole, And I'm like, well, do you have internet connection? That's all you need. He said, yep, we have great internet here. I'm like, okay, well, here's how you do it.
Yeah, so it's not that hard. And maybe that'll be a Jeopardy question. Where was Eric Bergman? Anyway, okay. So let's get down here to some handicapping. CPU.com. Hello. That is the, when you sort by high bid, that is #1. Great domain name. What do you have to say? Drew, Monte, who wants to go first?
Well, I'll just say that obviously, besides being a 3-letter domain name, it's obviously an acronym and used quite frequently in the computer business and the online industry as well. And the seller agreed to release reserve close to where it is, so I have a good feeling that name is going to sell. It's only a couple bids away, which is good, and so we could be walking in to the auction with an automatic sale of close to the mid 5-figure range, which is great.
That's a big deal.
I mean, 6-figure. Sorry, 6-figure.
So the seller agreed to release publicly what the reserve price is. That's a new.
No, it's not public. It's not public, but let's just say we're a couple bids away.
Okay, that's a big deal. All right, Drew, thoughts on CPU?
I mean, it's a great domain. It's a 3-letter.com. We talked about it a little bit in the last DomainSherpa. I'm not a huge fan of CPU.com, but the bidding activity on this name says otherwise. So I've been proven wrong many times before, and it looks like this might be one where I get,
Where you owe me dinner?
Yeah, where I owe Monte dinner. Exactly.
And by the way, just another comment on that, just so you know, is that I did have NamesJet validate these bids, these high bids. So they're verified bids. There's no shit going on. It's all real. So the top 3 bidders are fighting over this name. So it's all valid.
And is that standard procedure that you do validate these bids so no one has to worry about?
It is in my auction. I don't know how they operate on a daily basis, but it is in this auction. We have not had an incident where there's been a false bid live or online yet.
No shenanigans.
That I know of. So we go through extra efforts to make sure that if somebody's close to hitting reserve or has the high bid, that we're saying, hey, we just want to validate, is this you? And yes, they're signed up, and yes, they have valid payment method, and that's key. And the same in the room when they're signing for the paddles. Obviously you're signing that you're verified and valid bidder, and you have the resource and funds to take down the name. We've always had a couple names that we're supposed to sell and then went to the second highest bidder when we couldn't get a hold of the first highest bidder. I mean, stuff like that does happen, but it's rare. It's 1 out of a couple hundred.
Sure, and I'm sure that happens in any major auction as well. Now, Drew. Yes.
Hold on, I want to ask Monte a question. So before we start talking about more specific names, I want to know. I mean, so I love this auction. It's for whatever reason I'm competitive and I just love live auctions. This is like my favorite, couple of hours of the year. I love sitting in the front row. I love analyzing the list. I love making decisions about which names I'm going to make a play for. And, fucking around, having fun, and making a bidding strategy.
And the energy in the room.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. Not everybody loves it. I love it. I get a kick out of it. I buy names in every single auction every year. Probably one of the most active bidders.
I love you, buddy. I love you.
Monte.
I
love you, Wayne.
You, Drew, because you make it so fun. Okay, so
wait. I think Drew was making a point.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I want to know on a more personal level, what is if you had to say one name, let's say over 50 grand, one name that you think is the best deal in this auction, what would you say it is?
Jeez. I mean, one name, it's just, there's too many names in here.
One name that will sell. One name that it's going to hit reserve. It's going to sell. Take away the fee. I don't give a shit what price. One name that you think this is an amazing.
Well, I do. Like we talked about CPU. I think it's going to sell. I think it's going to sell. But Shit. Patent search is a great name. Stereos. I mean, there's so many. There's sex education, vaporizers is on the list. You know, some of the stuff in the new, you know, in the up and coming markets. You know. There's I mean, there's 2-letter names here, which are besides a 1-letter name, they're the rarest there are. Right? There's only 500 combinations total. You know. So we have OL.com and QO.com in the auction. Now they're not cheap, but still, it's a one-time. This is a one-time sale opportunity for those. You know, in my opinion. I mean, Leads is a key name. That's owned by that's owned by Web.com. That's been for sale for a while, but now the reserve is lower than it's ever been.
Yeah.
I mean, all the lead generation and affiliate generation business on the marketplace. That's a perfect name for that name to sell.
So, if I had to pick 2 names in this auction that I think might really pop off and sell above the reserve, two of the bigger names, the 2 that I think will sell are domain names and leads.com. I think leads.com and domain names, I think both of those names sell. That's my opinion. We'll see.
Good. We'll see if you're one of the buyers of those.
I will neither confirm nor deny my interest in either of those names.
But yeah, I mean, there's so many names like that on the list, and I know you like piano.com. I mean, and how about orgasms.com? That's actually got a reasonable reserve.
Who doesn't love orgasms?
Who doesn't love orgasms?
If you're in the audience right now and you don't love orgasms, please raise your hand.
I mean, it's not a singular. It's not orgasm. It's orgasms. Mm-hmm. It's plural. Mm-hmm.
You know, Drew has a real. In fact, I want to do a show sometime on Drew's opinion about singular versus plural, and he is very outspoken that most of the time a singular is more valuable than a plural.
That's true.
Drew, I think
doesn't take multiple orgasms over a singular orgasm.
Right. Well, if you using that point, Tess, is that there's actually a couple names that are probably better in plural than singular that are on this list, like domain names instead of domain name.
Yeah, like leads.com versus
like leads.com, like sucks.com. Sucks.com is on the list instead of suck.
Yeah. Different applications.
Yeah, different applications, right?
Now,
one's for Hoover and one's for
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I really am disappointed, Drew, that I was not recording when you looked at this list and said, oh, piano.com. Are there any other names that you looked at, Drew, and felt that excitement and surprise about?
Well, so I went through this list maybe a good week ago, maybe 10 days ago, just to, I generally don't look at it too detailed until right up before the auction.
There's new names on since then, obviously.
But there's been a ton of new names added, so I actually don't really know that much. I see vintage.com is on here. The reserve is a lot higher. When it sold in Heritage Auctions a few years ago, I remember I was on the fence, and I was like, and I didn't buy it. But I think that name's a sleeper. I think vintage.com is a
great name,
massive business. I mean, that's
I was almost reluctant to put it in because of the reserve, but after I did some research in the industry, it's huge. It's
huge, yeah.
And it touches multiple industries, from cars to clothing to thrift shops to
wine.
an era of time in our
art, wine, history. Fashion.
Yep.
Decoration.
So it's has a lot of play in a lot of different industries. It could be a cool app, it could be the name for like a Webpoint 3.0 name for another business. It's pretty cool.
I love this name. I think vintage.com,
You think it sells?
I don't know. The reserve is at a place where it needs an end user, right? So you get the right end user who figures out that name is for sale. That name sells.
I'm working on it.
Now, for any users who are newer, so I'm looking at the list and I see a domain, I see next to high bid, I see the letter R. Where are you seeing the reserve? Let's show that to our users.
Well, you have to hit up. It doesn't give you the actual reserve. It gives you the reserve range. So if you click on any name, like I'll go to Penn, which is a great name. The Asian market loves this name. Also, it tells you that you're not currently the high bidder. It tells you what the high bid is, and it tells you the reserve range. So it tells you, in this case, as of right now, there's a $10,000 bid, but the reserve range is between $700,000 and $800,000. So it's a higher price name, right? So
next to the numerical value of the high bid and the letter R, that's just a quick view to see if it has a reserve or not.
That's right. That's right.
And that's it.
Yep.
Then you have
if you have any reserve, then it says no reserve. And look at all the killer names with no reserves that are keyword names that are just sitting there. And again, a lot of those were just added, so there's no bids on them yet. But there's tons that are no reserve names that don't have bids yet.
Can we sort by no reserve or no?
Well, you can sort by you can't sort by no reserve. Well, you know what? I don't know if you can on NamesJet. Let me see.
In this,
no, you can't. You can't.
Yeah, in the NamesCon Auction dedicated page, you can't. But normally there is a filter that you can use.
But you can see it easily when you start peeling through. If you just scroll down and go into the farther pages down the list, if you go to page 4 and 5, where there's a lot of names with no bids on them, there's a lot of no reserve names back there.
Okay. And
I like memo.com. That's an amazing
Memo's huge also.
Memo, MEMO.com.
Yeah. If you ask me, the golden what's the word? The
sleeping?
No, the holy grail of branding for domain names is 4-letter words, CV. They're just like I don't know. There's nothing more memorable than a 4-letter consonant vowel domain. It's just something like memo.com, baja.com. Those names, nobody's going to forget that. You know how to spell it. You're never going to forget it. It's just
right.
Yep.
That's a great.
How about athlete.com?
Yep.
That's a big deal.
That's a name that gives me agita because I had the opportunity to buy that name for a song. I mean, we had Nike literally on the phone. This guy was about to sell the name, and I said, "No, you don't sell it for that price." And then I was going to buy it, and then I said, "Look, let me make a phone call." And we had Nike on the phone, ready to go, and they just couldn't get the people together to buy that name. And he ended up selling it. I'll never understand really why, but he did. And and now it's in the auction at a substantially higher price. And I should have pulled the trigger. I was ready. I was very willing, but I was like, oh, I'm gonna try and sell this thing to Nike for the dude, and then he sold it. So that name gives me agita. But athlete.com. It's like, how can Nike not own athlete.com? It's
exactly a lot of those end user names are like right. It's time for the taking for a lot of the end users to jump on this list, and then there's a lot of action word
or Under Armour,
right? But there's a lot of actionable words on the list too, like create, slowly, took, edit, right? So besides having
all.com.
Those are all.com, but I will say there's probably some of the best .net names on the list too than ever too. So there's 2-letter .net names. There's 3-letter .net names that have never been for sale before. And so if anybody doesn't think that .nets are valuable, they're still holding some good value. And there's bargains on this .net list in here for sure.
Wow, I love chop.com.
Shop.com. I love it. Okay.
We got carve.com. Great fit.
So chop.com, do you think that's going to sell?
Chop.com, we've got a reserve range between 200 and 300. It's, it has a very real possibility of selling.
200 and 300,000.
Yeah. Sorry. So I think the wholesale range on that name, it's one of these things. The wholesale range on chop.com is 100 to 200. And, the wholesale price, the retail price to an end user, if I owned it, I'd never sell that name under 500. So 500 to 750. And so you're right in the middle of the two ranges. And so
that's what I've tried to do with a lot of the names that were high, is try to get them in the middle of wholesale and retail. So it's still some really positive.
That's an achievable. I mean, I don't know, if it's closer to the 200 than the 300, that's a very achievable sale, even in the wholesale community, because it's a very unique name. A name like Chop, I mean, you can't buy those. You can't buy Chop.com. You just can't. I mean,
you can today.
There's tons of 3-letter and 4-letter names that actually spell words, like took, give, item, edit, shit. Those are all 4-letter names. And then there's Cobb, which is a 3-letter name that spells a word. Yen spells a word. So there's a lot of those names on the list too that are not only are they 3-letter, but they spell words. Not only are they 4 letters, but they spell words like keywords.
I have to shit on you on one name here. Babyfood.com. That name has been for sale since the first domain auction I ever went to, which was like 11 years ago.
That was my auction.
Yeah, it was. It was your auction.
Yeah, it was. I remember having it also back then.
It was at a traffic conference, and at that time, it was owned by David Zeichel. Yeah. And I remember having a 2-hour conversation with David, him explaining to me why this name was worth millions and millions of dollars, and the market was crazy not to be buying it. And it's been for sale ever since.
Right. Well, I brought it back in because there is some interest from some end users on that name. The biggest baby food company in the world is Johnson & Johnson. So, and I was involved with the baby.com sale to them a long time ago, and they just own that market. And
they should own it. I mean, there's no question in my mind.
There's a lot of names that people should own.
It's an incredible domain.
I brought it back because people should own it.
Yeah. Everything has a time and a place. So maybe this is the time and the place for babyfood.com.
And then there's some other cool names like mobile alerts, things you got to think about. Home development, which Tess, you brought up earlier, diet supplements, things that we hear about every day on the news and commercials and stuff that, my website is a good name. That has some interest, by the way.
All right. I'm going to throw one out here. This is, so far, I've only gone through 10% maybe. This is the best. Let's say if you're a newbie and you say, look, I want to participate in this auction. There's a name I want to buy. Your name is ibar.com, IBAR.com. I have not Googled it. I have no idea if there's an end user. I don't know if there's trademarks out there. You should do your own due diligence. But ibar.com right now has a bid of $575. It has no reserve. And that is a phenomenal domain. It's purely speculative, but that can be a brand for many, many, many things. Exactly. It even has that lottery ticket stapled to it, which is maybe Apple decides they're going to, have like a walk-up, tech fix, whatever they call it, their Genius Bar.
Like their Geek Squad, or what do they call it?
Genius Bar. They got the Genius Bar right now. And they can change that to iBar. And, it's a long stretch, but so is a lottery ticket. And so my point is this. At $575 with no reserve, you're not going wrong. Your downside, every time you evaluate a domain, am I going to buy this domain? If you're buying it for speculation, you say, okay, here's the price that I think I can buy it at. And my downside is X, right? So in this case, let's say you get this domain for $2,000, $5,000, even if it's $5,000. Your downside is maybe 30%, okay? And your upside is
the limit.
There's no limit. So your upside could be that's a name. It could potentially sell for $50,000, $100,000. It could sell for $200,000. You get lucky. I mean, iBar. You know what this really should be, and probably fucking will be, is a sound bar. So one of the hottest markets, in audio right now is these sound bars. Sonos came out with a sound bar, then Samsung came out with a sound bar. Everybody's coming out with a sound bar.
Yep.
And it would make a lot of sense for Apple to have the iBar. So
Look what Apple, Apple's gone after Alexa, and they're, in the Google, the Google Play too. So my daughter, for Hanukkah this year, she wanted the Alexa, double Alexa speakers with a subwoofer. So they have them now. So you have two Alexas and then a subwoofer, and awesome sound, and it's all, Bluetooth, connects to her TV, connects to her phone, and she, So those iBars, those sound bars are hot, and they bring sound into an entire room, and you don't need speakers everywhere.
Yep.
So this is, I love the idea, especially you think, around $5,000, Drew. We review a lot of investor submitted portfolios where they've probably spent $5,000, and we mostly are saying, let them expire. So if you have $5,000 and you're not going to bid on iBar, what are a couple, or you are, what are a couple others in, that real easy range that you think are worth the investment? Like I see bathroomsink.com has no reserve.
That was just added. That's like a huge commercial market, to buy bathroom sinks. I just went through a renovation in my house, and there's a huge, it's millions, hundreds of millions of dollars probably in business, throughout the world.
I remodeled, 3 bathroom sinks, all online.
Yeah.
Drew, do you think that?
A lot of great call to action domains in here.
Yep.
Okay.
So, all right, to your point, Tess, let's see. I saw bab.org, B-A-B.org. It was a couple $100. That's a first name. I'll tell you what, whenever I see a common first name or last name, I don't care if it's .com, .net, .org, even .xyz, .me, I'll buy it. If it's cheap, I'll buy it. You can't tell me. I always think about things like this. If everything, the shit hits the fan tomorrow, everything goes to hell in a handbasket, and I'm sitting here with my hands around a domain portfolio, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. You will find somebody who will pay you $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, $10,000. Somebody will buy their first name, .org, .net, .com. Somebody will buy that. Their last name, their first name. There is a buyer. You just have to put in the work. You got to go find them, but there is a buyer. And so that, to me, is an asset. You've got an asset. You've got something that you can, tuck away. You can proactively try and sell it, or you can tuck it away and wait for somebody to come knocking on your door. But if you buy a name like bab.com in an auction with no reserve, you're bidding against other people who are willing and able to pay. You're not going to lose. I don't know how you can lose.
Exactly. And you know what the best name on the list that's at no reserve? See if you can pick it out.
Okay.
Ooh, I like that. I was looking at freedropshipping.com.
I like lotus.net. That's a great .net right there.
Yeah, there's some great .nets, but guess what the best name on the list at no reserve is?
Okay, hold on. I've got another sleeper here. This is a huge name.
Not penis. Penis.com? You don't want a sleeper. You don't want a sleeper if it's penis.com.
I said huge.
Then you can't buy orgasms.com if you've got
it. Is that really on the list, Monte? Mike Steiger would not approve of this show. He will not let his children listen to it.
Well, it's a good thing Andrew runs it now because you can say what you want.
Exactly.
Is that really on the list, Monte?
What's that?
Can't hold me down. All right, so listen, here's the deal.
I'm gonna tell you what it is. I'm gonna tell you what it is.
I'm gonna tell you what my number one sleeper is first.
Okay, what's your sleeper?
I'm only through the first page now. Okay, glucose.org. Glucose.org. That is a freaking huge domain. Huge.
Yep.
I think diabetes is like other than like heart disease, the fastest growing killer in the world. Not just in America. China has a diabetes crisis. Basically, the whole world has a diabetes crisis. And anybody who knows anything about diabetes, it all comes down to glucose, insulin and glucose. So glucose.org is a very big domain. There are companies making tens of billions of dollars a year on drugs and on equipment. Even my wife, who's a nutritionist, I don't even use it, but she bought me a glucose meter because she likes to wake up every morning and measure her glucose. She knows. I don't know what you do with that information, but I mean, I don't know what it's called.
That's a good one.
She likes the little needle pricks is what she likes. And then,
So I don't even have diabetes, nor does my wife, thank God. And we buy glucose meters. So that is a huge domain. Glucose.org.
And I like it as a .org. It's
I was just going to say,
wellness.
I like it. The .org doesn't hurt that name one bit. It almost might even be better as a .org.
Now, and that has no reserve?
No reserve.
Okay, I'm looking. I saw race.info. I mean, every race, you got to get all your info, got to get
That's no reserve, but that's not the name I'm talking about.
No, I'm just going through the list. I'm not, do not put me down as guessing that is the best one on here.
No, I know.
But Las Vegas.events, and I really loved kvetching.com, no reserve.
What is it?
Kvetching. Yiddish for, kvetching, gossiping, kvetching.
Yeah.
Kvetch. It's on the list.
Kvetching. You got to pronounce it right. Kvetching.
Yeah. Kvetching. All right. So do you see it? Do you see the number one name at No Reserve?
Hold on.
Monte, I like that you're excited.
Is it the two-letter.net?
Nope. It's a three-letter.com. There's your hint.
What's the two-letter.net that you're looking at, Drew?
QZ.net or QV.net, one or the other.
Okay.
VAP.net, vape. It could all be, vaporizer market. That's not a nothing to shake a stick at. Sharp.net. I mean, no reserve. Like that's.
There's belly button rings, no reserve.
Insurance.us, no reserve.
No reserve. Insurance.us. That's not the name. That's not the name I'm talking about.
I found the one. I found it. Bellybuttonrings.com.
Well, that's a good name, but that's not the name I'm talking about.
Hold on. I'm working through here. Hold on. I got it. XGA.com.
Exactly. XGA.com is a no reserve three-letter name.
And it's at $300 right now.
Yeah. It was just added a couple days ago. So no one's really caught on to it yet. It's on the second page. But it's no reserve, a three-letter domain name at no reserve. Should be in the $50,000 range. That's
a good name. I haven't even seen it yet. This list is amazing.
XM.co is also, it's a two-letter.co. It's, when we bought mo.co, the minimum price to buy one was 30 grand or 50 grand or something. And, we bought it on a 2-year payment plan or 3-year payment plan or something. It's $500 right now, like XM.co.
Are payment plans an option, Monte, for auction buyers?
Through Domain Capital.
Yeah.
Through our partners, Domain Capital can offer the payment plan and financing for any of the domain names. So you go and get pre-approved if you're planning on doing that, or they'll approve you while you're at the show. They'll be there, Vince and Greg. They're great to work with. We helped them back in the early 2000s get off the ground and started and financed tons of names through them, through our auctions in the beginning, and it worked out really well.
Fabulous. Domain Capital. Good peeps. Okay. Dietitians.com has no reserve, and also escort.io.
Yeah, we got a couple IOs in there because it's starting to gain some ground.
I think those will sell. I think they're good investments.
I've got another one that this is, and I'm only bringing up the ones where it's like I see basically zero downside and a whole lot of upside. All right. So, you want to go buy this name and you end up being a loser. I take full responsibility. But I don't see how you lose on these names I'm talking about. So this is yourcovered.com. Yourcovered.com.
Exactly.
If that is not one of the best insurance slogans on the face of the planet, I don't know what else would be better. There's very few companies on the planet that use more domain names for campaigns and slogans and satellite websites, right? So if you're Geico or you're Allstate, you own hundreds of other domains related to specific products or domains that you bought for specific marketing and advertising campaigns. And if you pay attention, They love catchy slogans that make people feel warm and fuzzy and buy insurance. You're covered is about as good as it freaking gets.
Oh, so yeah, it is.
That's got a reserve, but the reserve is $2,500 to $5,000, and even at $5,000, that name is a no-brainer. No-brainer.
No-brainer.
Don't lose. You will never lose on yourcovered.com. I'm sorry.
Right.
It's a phenomenal domain.
One of the best new TLDs that are on the list that is at no reserve that hasn't got any bids yet is surgical.center. So surgical center. Mm-hmm. So very popular. All the outpatient surgery centers are called surgical centers. So that's on the list. Has no reserve. There's tons of names like that. Truce.org is another one that you can't go wrong with. There's lots of three-letter.net names at no reserve. XAF.net has no reserve.
I'm going to bring something up. You need some tech support. X.de. I tried to bid on that name 3 times now, and you can't. It just tells you invalid domain name. So I think
what on NameJet it does?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll get them to fix that because that's a single word.de, a single letter.de.
Single letter, yeah, and it's the letter, the best letter.
Valuable name.
Yeah.
Is that the only single letter in this auction?
I'm so brain dead from looking at all the names that I've gone through. I think it is the only single letter of any extension in the auction. So, and it's a .de, so it's very, very popular extension.
Yeah, the German extension.
Everything that we've said back, I have a new name that I think is let's say the biggest upside for let's say a newbie who's got a little bit of money they want to burn. All right, not burn but invest. Wipeout.com, 5,000 to 10,000 reserve. Incredible brand.
Yep.
I think probably some of the most watched after kitten videos. Some of the most watched videos on the web are people doing wipeouts, whether it's surfing, biking, cars,
right?
Whatever. People love to watch
all the fail videos, all those fail videos. Yeah.
People love to watch other people get fucked up, and wipeout.com is the best place you could watch people get fucked up. I mean, I think wipeout.com is a phenomenal name. And the reserve's $5,000 to $10,000. I mean, I'd buy it with a blindfold on at $10,000. No question. So that's an amazing deal. That's a great deal.
Drew, what do you think of hangover.com?
Great name. What's the reserve though?
75 to 100K.
So I think that it's an amazing domain. I love hangover.com. I remember back when I was in the fish business, I was at Brussels at the seafood show, which is the biggest, I think it's the biggest food show in the world, or it was at that time it was. And which, we're going back 15 years. So there was a company in the booth, like across the aisle from us. There was, I don't remember the name now. They were out of Scotland and it was called like, they had it was a catchy brand, and it was a hangover cure. And, we partied really freaking hard at those shows. So basically never slept. And so every morning these guys were feeding me these hangover things, and it worked. Like it legitimately worked. It was mostly B vitamins and caffeine and, some other stuff. But it worked. It was super legit. It worked. You took some before you went to bed, and you took it again when you woke up, and you felt, 80%.
And do you think for an end user, 75 to 100K, you think that's going to sell?
I mean, if those Scottish guys are still in business 15 years later, that business should be able to afford, 75 to 100 grand to own hangover.com. I mean,
hangovers are definitely still around.
Not to mention, it's one of the greatest
They're around every day.
History. Yeah, exactly. They say
so are the movies.
Yeah, they say you want to make $1 billion, touch 1 billion people, right? Want to make $1 billion, touch 1 billion people. The 2 names on here that will touch 1 billion people are shit.com and hangover.com. I mean, there's
and accident.com.
And accident.com. That's right. So yes, I think that I think hangover.com
and valentine.com.
Yep.
Yep. Now we are all over the place, and I hope the Sherpa Network doesn't mind, but I kind of like how it's going. We were, talking about saying, okay, what are your top, 5 and 6 figure domains? What are your top brandables? What are your top 5,000 and under domains? But I kind of like how it's going, and I know you got a little ADD going on. But candyapples.com, what are your top brandable domains, like 25K and less, that you see in here? Monte, Drew?
The problem is there's so many names. It's hard to go through and categorize. And so I think we're going to just freewheel it here. I think, I'm going through, I'm finding some gems in here. And if we're letting our audience know about that, I think we're doing them a service. I hope people didn't get too bored with us in the beginning and shut us off, because I think we're, you could spend 3 hours on your own going through here and second guessing yourself. Or you've got two of basically, I would say probably the two people who have sold more domains than any human being on the planet, telling you what the best domains on this list are and what they're worth and which ones are undervalued. And so, I think we're providing a valuable service to anybody paying attention. And I'm having fun.
Yeah. So there's a ton of brandable names, but there's also tons of industry names, that are key. Again, we talked about the keyword and key things for the business side. So I tried to mix up the list for branding, dual and three try meanings that you could use in various industries and space that open up bidders from outside industries and from different areas. Some Web 2.0 and Web 3.0 names that you can take and redefine names and make it into something really cool on an app or on a product or thing like that. And then there's dead keyword dictionary terms that mean what they say what they do, and then of course the action words, the things that are all actionable, that besides being a product, but you're things like withdraw.com and give.com and those types of things where you're actually doing something, and that's part of the word as well. So I tried to really spread out the list for a wide variety of potential end user and investor bidding. So I think we accomplished that, and I agree. There's too many names on the list right now, and that's why we weed through all this stuff and find out what becomes popular and what becomes of interest to others before I start weeding down the list to the live auction and what's really going to end up on the extended auction. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of work still involved, but that kind of gives you an idea of where my head's at.
All right. So what's your favorite domain on this list, regardless of reserve, regardless of price, just hands down the one that gets you the most excited? What name would you could own one name on this list? Which one would it be?
Well, I had it last year, but it's lucky.com. I mean, I think it's the best name. I think it's one of the best names there is, period, because it can apply. I mean, lucky in life, being lucky is something that people want all the time. They want luck. They want to be lucky. It's good for the gaming industry. It's good for the lottery industry. It's good for business. It's good for personal life. It's good for, so it's a huge network of uses of that name. It is expensive, but it's freaking one of the best names on the market, Yeah. And we talked about accident before too, which is a high price name also. But it's the number one keyword for the personal injury market. It's in every single high price keyword there is. The word accident is in that word. Also, so it's just a kick-ass name like that. All right. But then you have, the popular words like drone. The drone business is huge. Everybody's got a drone now, so that's on the list. And there's too many.
I think there are some really amazing brandables, but I don't know about the reserves. I see, vintage.com is my favorite name after Lucky, but the reserve is greater than 1 million.
Yeah.
Sponge.com, such a cool brand.
We owned sponge.com. I sold that about 2 years ago.
Okay, well.
You know what? No, sorry, I take that back.
Yeah, I think the owner has had that name for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I'm gonna just leave it be. I'm gonna just leave that right here. I'm not gonna even comment.
Let's keep looking at the brandables. Candyapples.com. 10 to 25K reserve. That's, I think, super reasonable. Aboard.com. love it for like a tech brand, 25 to 50K reserve.
Or for a cruise.
Balsamic.com, 10 to 25K reserve, awesome brandable. What do you think of, I mean, I just picked a few out to get the conversation going. What do you think, Drew, about these brandables and these reserves or other brandables you see?
Yeah, I mean, they're great names. I'm not looking.
Would you invest in them at that? Would you recommend someone invest in them? The domain name flute.com is a good brandable name. Flute.
Yeah.
Flute. Again, double meaning, but you know, it has great brandability in a number of different industries, in my opinion. Also, so that's another great name.
And what's the reserve there, Monte?
Let me hit it. I forgot.
Oh, sorry.
So, Tess, what was
between 100 and 200,000? It's between 100 and 200,000, so it's not crazy, and it's not only an instrument. It's not, you know, it's not only you know, for champagne. It's not only for, you know, it's you know, music to people's ears. It could be used for so many different things. You know.
Yeah. Some sophistication.
So, I mean, talk about right place, right time. Gunrange.com. You know, you gotta get, you know, a couple of gun ranges from Vegas. I mean, there's no place.
It's affordable too. It's affordable name.
Yeah.
Also,
is
wedding supplies is a big business, and that's on the list, and that's affordable too. Wedding supplies.
Is Gun Range a Brent Oxley name?
Nope.
He should be the buyer for that name.
Darren, I know he should. He should.
Gun Range, I feel like I know that owner. Who is that?
It's Darren Cleveland.
Okay.
Darren. So Darren has cemetery.com and funerals.com and those names also, which we're selling in private brokerage. But anyway, that he has a handful of names in this auction too that are really good and priced right.
Okay. So if there is a startup looking for a brand, or, you know, we see, you know, over at Media Options, sometimes we work with like marketing firms who service startups and just, you know, build a portfolio of their own for brandable names, or also investors. Brandable names are really hot. Come on and give me some that you see, or what do you think is totally going to sell in that area?
In terms of brands, the best ones I've seen so far, I think Baja is an incredible brand. I think Trap is a good brand. Drill.com is, I don't know what the reserve is. But I like it. Yeah, Drill.com is a hell of a name because
great name. Just added it a couple of days ago, actually.
The hottest industries on earth, I mean, other than cannabis, the hottest industry on earth is data science and big data. And you know, Drill.com is a great data analytics name. Phenomenal.
Yep.
And there's a lot of startups with a lot of money.
I like Hot Dog for an app or a you know, cool thing besides the actual meaning of it, right? So hotdog.com is a great name for that.
Yep.
As well. So there's a lot of cool names that could be used for different meanings and different terms. And then, you know, we have cardealer.com and, you know, stuff like that in the auto industry. And we got some good geo names in here. This Connecticut.com is on the list also. So there's some states and some cities in there too.
Man, I just broker.com. What a name.
It's a great name.
We talked about it. We talked about it on DomainSherpa. I mean, it's just one of the most valuable keywords in the world, in my opinion. It's just broker.com. You're never going to starve if you own broker.com.
Nope. It needs some good activity. It should be great.
Yeah.
Bullied.com, reserve of $5,000 to $10,000. That's a huge problem. A lot of resources, a lot of conversations. I think that's guaranteed to sell. What do you think? I'm not an expert. I'm just, you know, me. What do you think?
It should. It should, for sure. One of the other biggest things in our industry is content writing, and there's contentwriting.com for sale also. So,
And what's the reserve? Do you know?
it's between 50 and 75,000. So it's good reserve name, good, right where it should be, in that price range, I think.
So, all right, there's a bunch of
and some of these new TLDs that we talked about, there's city.directory. So city directory is on there, and we talked about surgical.center and things that make linguistic sense in the new TLDs. They're all priced right as well.
Toil.com, that's a name I sold years ago. Toil.
We have pregnant.com also. Yeah, that's a huge name.
Huge name.
Huge industry.
I like curve.com. Just regardless of price, just in terms of the best brands on this list. I like curve.com. I think memo.com is my number one favorite. I think Memo, that's just a phenomenal brand. Mild.com is a good brand.
Pisces.com is a good brand. There's Pisces.com on the list also.
Yeah. Curve. Stop. I've always loved Stop.
Yep.
How about create.com?
That's one of those action words that's just killer.
And so actually I take it back. I think create.com might be the best name in terms of a brand. Only because, in terms of digital content today, it's all about creators, right? Everybody's a maker. Everybody's a creator. It's all about create. That's what the whole future freaking economy is about. Create content, create, an audience, create something.
How about, here's one we haven't talked about.
Stereo.com can be used as a brand, a really good brand name too. Here's
what I don't like about Stereo.
Get the word out.
It doesn't have to be its literal meeting. It could be, blurt it out. Stereo.com.
I love it. Yeah.
Great double meaning. Boso, or Bosu.com, BOSO. It's one of those, 4-letter names that can be created into a company and whatever, and it's also used for exercise.
How about clinch?
Wait, why is it exercise?
But the Bosu balls are
I don't know what that is.
They're like a half of a ball that you use to work out in, and you
for balance.
That's what those are.
Yeah. Do you check for trademarks for these auctions?
Well, every dictionary term, obviously we're not putting Coca-Cola, Coke and Pepsi and those types of words. These are generic terms, and as you know, every single dictionary term has a trademark associated. It's not about the trademark, it's how you use the name, right?
Okay, so buyer beware, but you're ethical and decent in what you do.
Exactly. It's what you do with the name. Now, we don't have blatant trademarks on the list, but every single one of these words are in trademarks throughout the world.
Sure. Okay.
Every single one. So it's how you use it. It's not what you buy. It's how you use it afterwards.
Okay. I am loving this as a brand, and with the reserve. Clinch.com, 75 to 100K reserve. That is a powerful, exciting.
Yep. Grab a hold. Grab a hold. Don't let go. Yep.
Yeah. Those make amazing brands, don't you think, Drew? Clinch, 75.
Absolutely.
Yep. I would buy that. Just saying.
Just saying.
Yeah. Just saying.
Yeah, I'm saying, give me the paddle if you're bidding on that one.
Then you have some old terms in here that are still popular, like ringtones.com. We still have customizable ringtones on our cell phones, and we have cellularphones.com in the auction. Designers.com is in the auction. We already talked about domainnames.com being in the auction. Just good, common keywords. Stimulation.com is in the auction. So,
let's look at some exact match, like nannycams.com, 10 to 25K. Is that what, are you going to get an ROI on that?
Oh, yeah. User,
yeah.
I've spent thousands of dollars on nanny cams for my kids. I assume that's what I said baby phone or but they're not even baby phones anymore. Now they're all cams like Withings or Nest.
Yep.
Okay. But they're, you know, high enough dollar products, and you can sell some other things too. Okay. Musicvideos.com, 300 to 400K reserve. What? That's a good investment. Where?
Well, it is you know, music videos are still popular, and you know, it is a market, and you know, so again, when I go through the list and I see these names, you know, flashing in front of me, you know, there's things that you just go, well, that's a no-brainer. That means what it says. You know, that means what it says. That means this could be used 3 different ways. This could be used 10 different ways. You know,
Yeah.
and I cannot not put names in like that and see if they gain some popularity in pre-bidding.
I'll tell you what.
It may not make it to the live auction, but it probably will stay in the extended auction where a lot of sales happen after the auction is over.
Okay.
I think armed.com could be a business in a box. I mean, you create like a network, you sign up, you got a subscription, figure out some benefits for the people, you know, and when you sign up, you get a little sign to put in your front yard and a sticker that goes in your front door, and it's armed.com. And, you know, people know.
It could be for defense, or it could be you're armed with the right information for business.
Also,
so again, that's the way I thought about that name. Also, it's you're armed.
People who are armed.
You're armed before you, or you're armed for protection and defense, or you're.
But
you know,
if you're people who are armed, the reason I like it for its very specific meaning is because people who are armed, generally by definition, like to let other people know that they are armed, and there's nothing like a good, you know, there's no offense like a good defense. So. You know, I think that you'd have a captive audience and a lot of people that would, you know.
Captive? I couldn't help it.
Arm.com. I like it.
That's a good one. Okay, this I think is guaranteed to sell. And if you're an end user with $5,000 to spend, this is one to look at. The reserve is $2,500 to $5,000, naturopathy.org.
I think we used to own that way back.
Which one?
Naturopathy.org.
Oh, yeah, yes, for sure.
Like, Drew, if you were an end user with only $5,000, do you think that's a good investment?
If that's my business, then that's a no-brainer. I mean, if you're in that field, then that name is lights out. I mean, it's the .org is, again, it's almost better than the .com.
Those types of names are, you know, like glucose is good, great, exactly. Great .org name, better than .com probably. When you have the
glucose, I would say the alpha, meaning the profit potential. You know, who knows what it's going to end up selling for, but it's no reserve, so it will sell. And I would assume Monte's going to put that one in the live auction. But glucose.org, my gut instinct is that name has the largest alpha.
Upside.
Yeah, the largest upside from what it'll sell for in the auction, which is it's probably going to go for a few grand. I think it's worth even for a wholesale. I think it's worth it to the 5 figures, but I think it probably is going to go in the mid to upper 4 figures. And I think that name is worth mid to upper 5 figures, even low 6 figures potentially, to the right pharmaceutical player or device manufacturer doing glucose meters. That's a huge name. There's no way, there's no other way to say it. It's better than the .com in my opinion.
Yeah. Distribute.com, a reserve of 75 to 100K seems very reasonable. Thoughts?
What is it?
Distribute.
Yep.
I mean, like distributed ledger technology, you know, again, one of the biggest, you know, sure, the cryptocurrency markets are down, but the level of development and investment into the distributed ledger technology space right now is unprecedented. So,
oh my gosh, wait, stop the press. Ambush.com?
Yes.
That's awesome.
It almost ambushed you, Tess. It almost ambushed you.
Oh, Monte.
You couldn't even see it till just now.
What?
It snuck up on you.
It snuck up on me. I love it.
So tell me why you love that name, because I had the opportunity to buy that name for very, very cheap, and then it sold to the current owner. And I passed on it And I was on the fence. I was, but I at the end of the day, the only thing I could come up with was like that it would be the name of a video game or what do you do with Ambush?
I think it's
I love. I mean, it's one of those names. It's like right away it punches.
You don't know what they're going to do with Ambush. That's the whole
It's
point.
a surprise. It's a surprise.
No,
you just don't know. You don't know until you buy it.
Data. It's just power, excitement, movement, and being first. It's the connotation. I love it.
Okay.
But, yeah, that 100 to 200K, I think that's really reasonable. And I know I'm here representing, the Sherpa Network, and you two know what you're doing. But
well, you know what you're doing too, Tess. You have a good teacher over there, and you've done very, very well for yourself. So,
well, thank you.
Don't sell yourself short.
I'm just saying to our users, don't do what I say.
Hey, you know what?
And honestly, I know we're going to wrap up soon, but if people look in the back side of the pages and see all the names that are available at no and low reserves that are still there, all the 3-letter .net names and names like wordprocessor.com and yourdaddy.com and medicalchannel.com and lullabies.net. And there's so many names in the back. Uninsured.net is on the list. Wholesalers.org, websurfing.com, tourism.global. There's a good global name right there out of the bat. So if people start looking through I even have thekillers.com on here, even though it's a band, it's a generic term, and it can be used for all kinds of stuff.
Monte, I see
one of the biggest names on the list is texashold'em.com, which isn't getting a lot of action right now, but it's huge. It's what the whole online culture and offline culture industry is about.
I didn't even see Texas Hold'em.
Yeah, it's in the back. It doesn't even have a bid yet. So it was putting it up. Texashold'em.com is on the list. It's huge.
And here's the thing. This list is amazing. Monte, I see why you have had no time. This just is incredible. You have curated a beautiful, varied list here of really valuable domains. And we could do this all day, and I kind of want to. But I know you guys have other things to do.
I got to sell them. I got to sell all the names.
Yeah, get to work. What have you been doing?
I know that Andrew's going to buy about half of them, so I got to get the other half sold.
And I'm going to convince him to buy the other half.
Good. Then I won't have a strikeout at the auction this year.
Here's a great brand that is.
You can't stop.
Let's wind it up, but let's keep talking about the names. I love it.
The reserve is right. The reserve is right. Peck.com, P-E-C-K. I don't know what the immediate use case is, but it's a 4-letter word, easy to spell.
Yep.
And I can, start formulating ways to use that name. Peck.com is, it was also the name of the street my grandmother lived on when I was a kid. But that's a great name. Peck.com, 50 to 75 reserve. That name should sell. That should definitely sell.
Yeah, there are not many names on this list that I think we would, if we had this on the Sherpa review, that we would have anything negative to say about. It might be a matter of price, but these just keep coming. Amazing.
Socialmedia.net. There's another great one. And then you have these new products like solar backpacks. There's solarbackpack.com on the list. There's such thing now as solar paint and solar siding. Those are all on the list.
All right. What do you choke.com, 75 to 100 grand. What do you do with choke.com?
Well, it could be a do not choke site, you don't choke on presentation. You don't choke in business. Could be something like that.
Or like Wipeout, it's a website that shows people choking. Under pressure.
I don't know how many people want to see that, but there is a market.
No, not like literally physically choking, but like choking, messing up, giving
on a presentation or something.
An invested pitch.
Another great name on the list that's priced right is slept.com. So it's the only word left in that sleeping space that is a domain that isn't owned by an end user yet. So it was just put up for sale recently by Kate Buckley, actually, and it's the only it's only a term in the sleeping industry that's not registered now. I mean, doesn't belong to an end user. So it just recently made the list the end of last week.
Okay.
And you can already see that commercial. Oh, I finally slept.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. I mean,
Great
this is amazing. If really and truly, this is a fabulous list for end users, for investors, for really any price range. A lot of really powerful, I know I've said this a couple times, and I'm not only into, like, I don't have a power problem. I'm not only into powerful names, but I feel like, I mean, primerib.com, just the connotations for brands are beautiful. Drew and Monte.
Shoe rack. Here's another great, this is another one. You would never go wrong. Shoerack.com, 2,500 to $5,000.
Could be a great online shoe store for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, no brainer.
Yeah.
And now you're buying shoe. I mean, look what Amazon did with Zappos.
And
I mean,
shoes are so hot right now.
Right. And whoever thought you could buy clothes or shoes online and that they'll fit you and stuff? Now it's like commonplace.
Yeah,
and there's an aftermarket. It's not even.
It could be the Stitch Fix of shoes.
Aftermarket. Like, I bought this new pair of shoes. I never wore them. They don't feel right in my feet, but somebody would love them. You know?
No, people are speculating on shoes because there's like limited edition sneakers. You get the Wheezies that come out, and people just buy them up and then they put them on goat.com and
look at Tire Rack. That's a huge business for tires.
Yeah.
So Shoe Rack is perfect.
Shoe Rack is a great brand.
So to our Sherpa network, I think this is hilarious that you guys can't stop. And I know you both have like other things you need to do, but you're like, you still can't stop. And this is the beauty of domains. This is the beauty of this auction. It's going to be so fun to be there in person. And you two really are just, I mean, it is amazing for anyone to have your insights ahead of this auction, let alone that you do it for free for the Sherpa Network. Thank you both. Monte, are you wearing that shirt to the auction?
This one? That's my Adidas. No, probably not.
Just checking. You always clean up nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Sometimes I wear some funny T-shirts, and sometimes I wear some branded T-shirts. But I think this year I'm going to wear a really fun T-shirt.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe we'll have some speculation on that. All right. Thank you both. We will see y'all in the auction, at the auction, and after the auction.
Sorry, I'm going to throw one more at you guys. Just because I can't help myself.
Stop.com on here? Oh, we have stop.com. That's what I'm getting on the show with.
All right. Dingy.com. You've got a $1,000 to $2,500 reserve. Dingy.com.
You have a big dinghy or a little dinghy?
Okay. Dingy, spell it.
D-I-N-G-Y. Dinghy. Like, you know, dinghy is
like a small boat.
The small boat you use to get to your big boat.
That's right. I have a shirt that says, "I have a really big dinghy," and it shows a picture. It shows a picture of a dinghy on the front of the shirt. It's really funny.
I think dingy.com is a great brand. I love that. I will bid on dingy.com. Full disclosure. If you bid against me, I'll kill you.
All right. I guess I have to put it in the auction then.
Yeah. Dingy.com better be in that live auction.
Okay. Good.
Wow. Well,
there's a sale. There's a sale.
Sold.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. You should practice your sold, Monte, and Drew, you can practice your paddle. Ready?
I'm a trained professional.
I'm gonna bring a prop this year that kind of goes along with my shirt. So it's gonna be a surprise that I'm gonna have up on stage.
It goes along with your dinghy shirt?
No, I wasn't gonna wear the dinghy shirt, even though that's one of the names in the auction. But I'm gonna wear another shirt, and I'm gonna bring the prop for it so that they go together. I
think if you're wearing like a tux, when you get to dingy.com, you should, Superman it and have your dinghy shirt underneath.
Yeah, that's right. And then I'll have a bunch of dates after the auction too.
I know.
So
right?
straight up,
Straight up, you're going to be bidding on dating Monte?
No, I don't think that the current bids on NamesJet are necessarily reflective of the names that should be in the auction or not.
No, it just helps. It just helps. Of course not.
But going through this list, I truly, unequivocally, and I mean this, I I think that this will, I don't know about total dollar sales, but there's a lot of names that I know as fact are going to sell in this auction. There's a lot of stuff that will sell. The more deeper and deeper I go on this list, there's just a lot of value. There's a lot of value.
We typically sell between 60 and 70% of the names in the live auction. So we have a good sale rate, and then we sell a ton of names in the extended auctions afterwards, of course. And then when the extended auction's over, there's after auction sales that occur. So it continues. That's why we have a long exclusivity agreement on these, because once we start building all this awareness and then doing all the PR and all the end user marketing, it comes around sometimes after the fact, after everything's over, and they say, "Hey, is that name still available?" Yep. And so that's why we do it. So it will continue, and there'll be, I never have now, unlike the days in the past where you go through 8 or 9 names, there wouldn't be a sale. Now with all the intelligence that we have and the benefit of pre-bidding and knowing what names already hit reserve, we know that there's going to be, no more than 1 or 2 names in a row that will not sell. So it's going to be active auction from beginning to end. That's the good news. So I encourage everybody to attend it, to be online bidding and participating, because there's good deals, there's good end user names, there's good investor names, there's names that have never been for sale before. And I truly do feel, after all these lists that I've gone through, all these names that I've gone through 20 some odd years of doing these auctions and putting them on for the industry, this is my best list ever, by far. Yeah. In terms of quality, end user, brandable, keyword, 2-letter, 3-letter, number names, and it's just the best name I've ever had. Best group of names I've ever had. I mean,
it just doesn't stop. It is an amazing list. The prices seem very reasonable. So if you have $5,000 to spend, if you have 10 grand, if you have 25, I mean, I'm seeing names.
Million, you've got millions to spend. Come on.
Yeah. These names are home runs. Beautiful. Very, very.
Startup funding for 2,500 to $5,000. I mean, that's.
Well, how about, I don't like names with hyphens and dashes, but there's start-up.com. Yeah. And it's a great name. And, in Europe, they don't care about the dash. It just, it's a perfect name.
Yeah. Also, how about fingertips? Like, it's right at my fingertips. Something you need to track, organize. Fingertips, 10 to 25K reserve.
Yep.
Yeah, I like it. Okay.
Tons of names that aren't, that aren't even bid on yet. So, sired.com. How about that name? That's a great name. For dog breeding, or for just a cool startup name too, or an app, Sired.
Yeah. I kind of like abomination.com.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I feel like
reviews.com.
I couldn't spell that sober.
Resigned.com is on in the auction. Spycam.
We should just fade this out. Like, we will never stop.
Yeah.
There's singlestrip.com on the auction. Shattered.com. Parkingtickets.net. Speedingtickets.net.
Gstring.com.
Yep.
Yeah.
Snag.
Oh, you know what? Oh, 50yardline.com. Yep. Great sports name. Tickets or talk.
No bids on that name yet, and it's very affordable.
10K reserve. Oh, no, there's a bid by Seafood Man.
Oh, okay. So there is one. I think that name's right down your alley, Drew. 50-yard line.
No comments.
Okay, this is getting awful.com. Okay, all right. Sherpa Network. See you soon. We'll never stop.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Monte.
Thanks, Monte. Looking forward to seeing you in a couple weeks.
My pleasure. Looking forward to throwing back some bourbon with you.
Absolutely.
All right. Bye.